Welcome and good day, everyone. My name is Jeff Dudan, and I will be hosting the webinar today, Building and Keeping a Winning Team. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank Surefire Local for sponsoring this webinar today. Happy for the opportunity to be here. I know that Surefire is the digital marketing provider of choice that so many of us across North America rely upon for high quality, results-driven digital local marketing. I know that if they are a top 20 Google partner and if they're good enough for Google, they're good enough for me. So thank you for letting me be here. And today's webinar is going to focus on the people piece of our business. So real quick, as far as expectations, I'm going to do an introduction on myself so you know who's talking to you. Next, we're going to spend some time getting introduced to the workforce of tomorrow. We're going to talk about who they are and how they, at their very core, are different than those of us who have come before them in the home service industry. During this time of the workforce of tomorrow, we're going to talk about demographics and introduce something called the shift age. We're going to borrow from the wisdom of futurist David Howell and talk a little bit about a couple key factors that create both challenges and opportunities for us as employers. Then near the end, I'm going to give you a 6-point test that you can ask yourself about your business and more specifically about your culture in your business. Success leaves clues, and I want to give you a few pieces of evidence to see if they are present in your culture today. Finally, I want to give you a fast 5 of culture concepts and really what I like to call models of thought. Models are useful for us in that we can refer back to thought models when we're having an issue with an employee or a morale problem or just some stinking thinking around the office that we can't figure out what's going on and what's behind it. And I want to give you some tools to help you understand what's going on. So, sound good? Apparently nobody objects, so away we go. Quick introduction again. My name is Jeff Dudan. I am the CEO and founder of a company called AdvantaClean. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I grew up playing sports and working a lot in the trades. I worked concrete, construction, moving, painting industries, probably like many of us today, grew up working for a living. I also did a short stint as the dog Chuck E. Cheese in the costume, so not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was always working growing up. And I bounced around to a couple of colleges, and I finally found myself out at Appalachian State University as a junior college transfer in Boone, North Carolina, on a football scholarship. It was there I started my first real business, which was a painting business, where a business partner and I made a very nice living painting student housing apartments during the lease change periods. After we handed that business over to our younger brothers so that they could put themselves through college on it as they ran the business, we decided to respond to help people recover from Hurricane Andrew in South Florida in 1992. It was during this time that I entered and took a deep dive into the repair, reconstruction, remediation, and restoration industries in a meaningful way. As that work wound down for us in 1993 and 1994, myself and 3 others moved to Central Florida to launch the business that would become AdvantaClean. And in 1995, I returned to Charlotte to open our second location and also to get married at that time. So today, 23 years later, AdvantaClean is a specialty contractor, a light environmental service business with franchised offices in 33 states. We resolve issues in homes and businesses when moisture gets in places where it does not belong, providing solutions to make them clean, safe, healthy, and energy efficient, helping people where they live and where they work. We're also very proud to be on a small list of national strategic partners with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and we are one of the fastest growing franchise systems in the service industry today. So that is AdvantaClean, and that is what I do every day. Recently, we were fortunate enough to appear on CBS reality series, the hit show Undercover Boss. It was an incredible opportunity for all of us across AdvantaClean Nation who have worked hard to build the brand, and a perfect platform to highlight our wonderful people. We're very excited about the way the show turned out, and if you care to check it out, you can see it for free at cbs.com and just search Undercover Boss on the CBS site and you will find our episode, and I hope you tune into it. There's a lot of good stuff on there, so enjoyed that very much. What is the workforce of tomorrow? Who are they? What's just around the bend? What do we need to do about it as employers? And just to set the table for this, you may have heard Mike Rowe, who incidentally has a wonderful podcast called The Way I Heard It, speaking to Congress a couple of weeks ago. And what he spoke to Congress about was the 5.6 million skilled labor jobs that are available that pay well and nobody seems to want to take. These jobs have benefits. They provide stability. And more than that, they provide critical services that we as a country really need. The fact is exposing the talent gap that exists in this country, and it's widening quickly. This is the proverbial canary in the coal mine, and it sets up really the topic we're going to talk about today is this skills gap and how that's going to affect our ability to hire people and to attract teams to help us build our businesses. So we're going to talk about this people piece. We need people to make us go. We're going to talk about it, what it's going to take to attract these people to our businesses in a shrinking and rapidly changing workforce, and have them choose, it's a key word for today, choose to work for us. So I'm going to set the table with 5 factors that are contributing to this change. And as I talk today, I want you to ask yourself this question. If the Wall Street Journal came to you and wanted to interview you and your company because you were wildly successful, you were renowned and recognized as the leader in attracting people to work for your company. In fact, there was no shortage of people for you. You had all that you wanted. They were lined up outside the door, and anything people could do to get a foot in the door with your company, they would do it. And the Wall Street Journal wants to know, what are the amazing things that you're doing? How do you create this culture, this environment where so many people want to work with you? Got it? Thinking about it? Okay, good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about labor dynamics, and this is factor number 1. In 2015, millennials became 51% of the workforce. Now, as many of us are becoming aware, they're also increasingly becoming our customers. There's plenty of information available on millennials. Some of it appears right on this slide. And I think the key thing about them becoming 51% of the workforce is what I'm focusing on today. And one thing that's important to these millennials when they work at a company is being aligned with an organization or a company that serve a higher purpose of some sort, that participate in what they perceive to be social good. That matters to millennials. Other things that matter, as we're all aware, time off, rewards, recognition, other quality of life elements matter to these people. They're very focused on things like inwardly focused values, happiness, discovery, progress, as opposed to some of these other things that maybe we were focused on. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So those things are important to take care of. As importantly, with millennials and those coming behind them, these people are all considered to be digital natives. They've grown up with excellent technology, rapidly changing technology that are highly efficient, very effective, and easy to use. Not only have they grown up with it, they've been immersed in it from a very young age. Some of you may have seen the video of a 4-year-old girl handed a paper book, and she is taking her finger and trying to slide the pages like it's an iPad. And then they give her an iPad, and now she's happy, and she can operate that thing flawlessly. So digital natives, they expect frequent innovation. They're used to changes in technologies, where we may get what's called innovation fatigue, or I don't know who's listening, but myself, I'm in my late 40s. I get fatigued with the changes. They expect them, and they like them. So the older we are, the more repetitions it takes, and the longer it takes for us to learn a new technology. Whereas these digital natives, they're much more adaptable, and they're looking for excellent technology. Second factor, number 2, is that for the first time in history, we have more jobs than people as of 2015. Now, maybe not in absolute, okay, but certain industries, absolutely, such as the skilled trades. Think back to what Mike Rowe said, 5.6 million jobs that go unfilled due to a skills gap. And think back to whenever you might have grown up. I had many jobs like I've shared. And what did we do with our jobs when we got one? We kept it. We hung on to it. Because if we didn't do what they told us to do, where they told us to do it, for as long as it took to do it, there was 100 other kids that would take that job for us. You were lucky to find a good job, so we were compliant. And since the industrial age, we have been compliant in our employment, because if not, we didn't have a job anymore. But it's not that way today. If your employee is not fully engaged or they don't like what they're doing for some reason, they just go do something else. It's easy. There's plenty of options for them. These options may be easier jobs, or they may pay more or have better benefits than what you can offer them. So we have left this era of compliance where many of us that own businesses today grew up in, and we have entered this age of choice. And if we are in the age of choice, how do we become the employer of choice for the workforce of tomorrow? Because if we expect our businesses to go and our businesses run on people, that's what we're going to have to solve for. So where today we have a talent gap and a skills gap, in the next few short years, and certainly in the next decade, we are heading into a full-blown labor crisis in this country for the things that we need to get done as an industry. I mentioned David Howell earlier, America's leading futurist, as we'll say. So I'm going to borrow a few things, these next three things, from his book, The Shift Age. I highly recommend it. It's an excellent read, and it's very thoughtful and well put together, and it's very appropriate for the things that we're facing with our workforce today. And it all is very applicable. So the first thing is the speed of change. What world did we grow up in terms of change? So again, I mentioned I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And I remember my phone on the wall, and it had a rotary on it. And at some point, we got a phone that had buttons on it, which was outstanding because now we didn't have to wait for the rotary to cycle back. And we got a scrunchy long cord where I could hide all the way around the corner in the dining room and talk on the phone now, instead of having to just do kind of a wall squat underneath the phone because the cord was only 3 feet long. What got really exciting, I got a little bit bothered, and it made me stumble when we had to add an area code, and we went from 7-digit to 10-digit dialing. But they gave me something when they got rid of the busy signal, and we went to call waiting. And then when the cordless phones came out, and we had three-way calling, it was just an absolute party. So, but those changes that I just described happened over 15 years in my household. Okay, the world changes in 6 months in telephony these days. So, I mean, we were not looking to make changes. My father, bless his heart, Disco Bob, he grew up in the 70s, or I grew up in the 70s, and one of my earliest memories of him is that he had a perm. He had an afro. And, well, that was fine, but that afro touched 3 decades. Okay, we weren't changing things quickly. All right, and now, as soon as we learn something, whether that's in marketing, the means and methods, they change every 6 months. There's new vendors. Where are the leads coming from now? Why did we get leads from there 6 months ago, and now they're dried up? And with this disruption in the industry, with disruption and the speed of change, you're always wondering, where are the leads going, and who's stepping in front of the line to get them before I do? And then we get exhausted with this. So there's innovation fatigue. As soon as we learn something new, we have to get dialed in and learn something else. But again, with digital natives, millennials, they're expected. They're used to it. They grew up immersed in it. So we have to create certain conditions in our companies that they're going to be comfortable in and that they're used to. The fourth factor is the flow to the individual. And think about this in terms of, we used to market to market segments. And, there was a great marketing study that I remember from college where the guy was the marketing director, and he was selling campers and camping equipment and camping supplies. And it occurred to this individual or somebody that campers, people that camped, had dogs. So they figured out that they could get a list of dog owners somewhere, and they could send them direct mail for camping supplies, and it was very successful. That worked for 10 years. They figured they rode that. How nice it must have been to be a marketing director back then, because you weren't always getting disrupted and upset and trying to figure something new out. But today, whether you're recruiting customers or employees, you have to speak directly to individual people today, not to market segments like that. And I mean right to their heart. Customers and employees have the ability to find and choose just what they're looking for. One of the phenomenon has to do with our reality. So I want you to think about this in terms of a physical reality. So when I was growing up, my world was defined by what I could touch. My friends, where I lived, what I drove or what I didn't drive, a basketball, a football, my clothes, that was it. I mean, you could define Jeff Dudan by these things, and it was all the things that I could touch and that were within arm's length of me. Today, we exist in a screen reality where our image and our identity is defined by what's on our mobile screen and what we put on others' mobile screens, what we like, what we support, what we share. We live in a virtual world. It's a screen reality, and it's created completely by us and what we choose to click on. And we ignore what is around us, and we create some persona online. So where if I want to go on vacation, I'm looking for what accoutrements I'm going to be surrounded with, what I can touch. What are the things that is it a Hilton? Is it a Marriott? Is it a beach? Well, these, other people going on vacation are digital natives today, man. They might stay in an Airbnb. They don't care as much. They may or may not want a car. So they're less material in the things that they can touch because they have this virtual reality and the screen reality that more describes where they spend more of their time. And in these apps, we tell the world who we are. So whether it's a customer or whether it's an employee that we seek, we need to know who we're looking for. And I mean individually, specifically who we're looking for, and we need to match them up with what our company stands for. And then we have to be able to make that connection in a believable way with these prospects. So our marketing has to include, what we stand for and our cause so that people can choose whether they want to associate with us or not. And the fifth factor is accelerating electronic connectedness. It's accelerating, and that seems to be very commonsensical, and I get that. But it's accelerating faster than anyone has predicted. I mean, if we're paying attention at all, we understand, and all of us, massive acceleration to mobile. We see it in everything that we do. Everything that we do, whether we interact with our kids' schools or just everything is done on our phone now. So there's roughly 5 billion mobile telephone subscribers on the planet today, and it's blown away projections of how fast we transition that way. And we have to pay attention to that. It supports the rise of the individual. It supports the rapid innovation. And so it's been in the news lately that the NFL has been losing viewership. It's been waning a bit. Arguably, in my opinion, the best sports product in the country that exists. We love football in this country, but if you ask a digital native if they have satellite or cable television, guess what the answer is likely to be? Neither. So is the NFL losing viewers because people are liking football less? Or is it just because that there's more access to more choices today that are easier to get and more affordable to get, and people are just not getting satellite cable, so they're not bouncing across football, so they're not putting it on as much anymore. And I think if you would ask some of the consultants or some of the people in that industry, then they would say that maybe 5 years from now, people are just going to be flicking things up on their phones to the TV. And so I'm not sure what that says for the satellite industry or the cable industry, but it's something to think about. A digital native you're going to ask them if they have satellite or if they have cable, and they're going to say they have Netflix or Hulu, or maybe if they want to splurge, they're going to have Sling, and with a flick of the finger, they're screencasting their entertainment to their TV. Again, it's the age of choice. And I experienced this myself. I was working in the dining room. My family was watching TV in the living room, and all of a sudden I heard some commotion coming from my kids. And I heard what was on my phone now coming from the TV. And I had accidentally swiped over my phone content to the television in the other room. And thank goodness I was watching a TED Talk. Okay? I quickly had my 12-year-old come over, and he was able to get me disconnected from the television. And but think about the age of choice and how it impacts our ability to get our message out to the people that we want to connect with and we want them to consider working for us. So that's the landscape in which we're competing. And now with the massive amount of information, all of it being delivered mobilely, everybody jumping in front of everyone else to get that share, how are we going to compete with that? Everybody's pumping out messaging about what a great place to work they have, okay? Or maybe they're not. Maybe the people that are pumping that message out and doing it in a believable and effective way are getting the employees. And if you're not doing it, maybe that's something that you need to consider in your business. However, we've got to get a believable message that they can get social proof that it works. It reminds me of a timeless quote. Sometimes you go back to the classics, and people will offer anything as truth on the internet and attribute it to anyone. Thomas Jefferson. And we've got legacy thinking. We're at a crossroads now, an inflection point in 2015 with the 51% of millennials entering the workforce, and there being more jobs than people. And we see it every day. We seek to understand it. And what we've done in the past to attract and retain people, it might not be enough, and it might not work. Many of us, we've built our businesses sometimes by sheer will and determination. And when it's gotten tough, we've just muscled it up the hill, and we've got it done and pushed through. To get the people we need to make our businesses go, we're going to have to change the way we think about the employment relationship and the culture that we create inside of our businesses to attract the people that we're going to need. So think about that. So things that offend, really just kind of a quick recap here. What offends the workforce of tomorrow? Legacy thinking. There's a great Charlie Brown cartoon, and I'm not sure if it's Linus or Charlie, I don't remember, missed a fly ball, and Lucy has given them grief, and they show them just missing previous fly balls, and they say to Lucy, they say, hey, I can't believe I missed it, but the past was in my eyes. And the way we hired in the past, the opportunities that we presented to employees, the stories we told, it might not appeal to them in the future, because we tell stories to express what our culture means at AdvantaClean. And it's very powerful, and we do it from the very beginning, because those are your organization's culture lives in the stories, and your culture is an organization's memory. And we're very proud of the things we've done, and we think that it's a valuable asset for us as we attract people. And we work at it very intentionally. So we have to create certain conditions, including why our company is up to something, why we're going somewhere. We have to create a sense of movement and progress and awareness that we know what's going on in the world, particularly with social issues and technology, and that we are going to be a part of it. The other, uncool technology, kludgy, cumbersome, antiquated software, systems that are not easy to use, no gamification. They'll leave your company because the apps they're accustomed to are exceptional. And they will look at a bad platform and just say, I'm not going to work in that every day. Simple as that. We invest in technology that's customer facing, websites, interfaces, online scheduling, those types of things, but do we have the same quality of stuff that's internally facing that we're expecting our people to use? Because that's the expectation. So consider in your upcoming or future technology roadmap and implementations, be very cognizant of the user experience and not just for your customers. Unclear purpose. Why do we do what we do? Who do we help? Who do we serve? How are we making the world a better place? Is your business involved, or is it willing to get involved in making a difference in some way where people live, where people work, in your community, nationally? These things are going to help attract the right kind of people to your brand. Businesses make money, period. That's what we do to stay in business. It's got to be the number one priority, because without making money and without making profit, we can't do anybody any good. So that's at the top of the house. But as we execute our business and we make money, what else are we doing to help attract and retain people and get excited about what we're doing as a brand, as a company? Websites, again, more apps, less websites. There's talk, and I'm not one saying it, but I am repeating it, that websites are going to become less and less important, and apps are going to be where everything gets done. And so websites are for viewing, apps are for doing. We migrate more to mobile, clean, easy to use things need to be part of your roadmap. Work with a minimum of friction, and it's going to be part of your employee satisfaction. You should test for whether people like the technology that they're using or not. Get them involved, possibly in the solution. Lack of progress. Look, right, wrong, or indifferent. Today, our labor force is less likely to stay in one place doing the same thing. They'll work hard and they'll be excited, but after a short time, by our standards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they're looking for change. They're looking for progress. They're looking for promotion or more money or rewards, or they're going to be looking for the next opportunity. So part of what we need to be providing as employers is a clear path to progress, and they have to feel it, and it has to be real. And we're not looking to just strap somebody into a cube and put them there for 30 years and make them pound away. It's just there's more options for people, so we're going to have to be aware of that progress factor and that it's something that they're looking for. And this is an interesting one, lack of cadence. So sales managers, salespeople, you understand the value of cadence, meaning you run a 3-week sprint, you run a program, you run another promotion or a 7-week sprint, and then you rest and you gather for the next sprint. The workforce of tomorrow is looking for some interim goals, some variation, rewards, recognition along the way, a little gamification, something to win, something to score, right? With those short or midterm initiatives. Yes, building a business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We need the longer we stay in the game, we must be present to win, the better off we're going to be, right? So, but we need people to do things for a long time. Just make sure that inside of that we create those sprints and rests and resets that vary the cadence and keep things energized and interesting. And it's not on the slide, but speaking of energy, look, leaders have to bring energy. That's among the most important role that we have as leaders. Your people will only be a subset of the energy that you bring to your organization. You're going to have to find a way to bring it every day and around these things that we're talking about here. So we're talking about a high engagement workplace. 64% of millennials would rather earn less money at a job they love than more money at a job that they're not fulfilled with. So we're in the age of choice. More jobs than people. They can leave us at any time. How do we encourage them to stay? Well, we have to find ways to create an environment of high engagement for our teams. Personally, I think if you find a way to include community and make a difference somewhere, whatever's on your heart as a business owner, it could be homeless, veterans, children, whatever motivates you, whatever and fits with your business, right? Get engaged and get your team engaged around them. That's that's a layup. Every business should be socially involved in something as part of what you're doing. Then to the extent that you can include your team in your strategy process, your planning process, include people in solving issues in your company, marketing issues, technology issues in particular. They're good at it, okay? Job cost, expense issues. Get everybody involved. Rally around the problems that pop up in all of our businesses that happen when we're growing, right? The next problem is just because we outgrew the old ones, and look for solutions together. That creates high engagement. As any leader, also, you have to walk the halls and you have to constantly be speaking a future into existence. Whatever that is for you and your team and your company, biggest in the market, 50 trucks, 5 trucks, 3 trucks, this account, that account, whatever your future is, you have to be the one that speaks it into existence, because luck favors the bold. Nothing great happens until somebody's willing to speak a powerful future into existence. And until somebody says it, it's not going to happen. So why not you? Why not today? And every day, you have to continue to speak that and keep getting reps on that powerful future to engage your team at every level. And I'm going to introduce a concept here called discretionary effort. We're going to talk about it twice because it's so important, but one of my greatest jobs as a leader is to get discretionary effort, which is the extra that people will give you by their own will and their own choice. So if there's a minimum that people need to do to keep their job, and there's the best employee you've ever had, the difference between those two levels of effort is discretionary effort. It's what they give you by your own will and by your own choice. So what's the opposite of discretionary effort? It's undertime. We don't want undertime. It's the amount of money you pay disengaged workers, right? 89% of workers waste time intentionally. 31% waste an hour, 16% waste 2 hours, and 4% waste half a day on purpose. That's not the purpose that we're talking about, by the way. That's off purpose. All right, so if your culture embraces undertime as the norm, how are you going to be great? You can't. These people are actively disengaged. Now, I got a challenge for you right here. I want you to look at the slide. You should look at that dude. I want you to say, all right, and I read those stats. Did you think about anybody in your organization as I was reading those? And if you did, I want you to write that name down right now. Okay? All right. Now, by Monday, those people should no longer work for you. All right? And I want you to email, text me, LinkedIn me, and let me know who you fired. Okay? They're killing you. Undertime and groups of people gather, rallying around undertime. It's devastating to our business. So, all right. So we're going to move real quick now to a 6-point culture test, and there's lots and lots of information around purpose and values and mission and vision and all those things out there. I'm a big proponent of Traction, the Gino Wickman model. If you haven't used it, you should take a look at it. But for running a small and mid-sized business, it's a great set of tools to use. But I want to talk, just test yourself here as we're all getting introspective. Think about what we can do to create a magnetic and energetic workforce. And I'm going to give you 6 things to ask yourself. Where do you stand with these things? Number 1, clear purpose. Can anyone and everyone in your office tell you what your company does, who you help, and why you exist? In just 1 or 2 sentences. For example, AdvantaClean makes a difference in people's lives by providing them with clean, safe, healthy, and energy-efficient homes and businesses. We help people where they live and they work. We change lives. We make a difference. That's how we do it. That's our purpose. That's why we exist. That's why we show up every day. It's what we focus on. Stated values. I cannot emphasize the importance of having stated values. Ours are plastered over everything that we do. They're everywhere in the office. They're huge. It's an acronym. It's CARES: community, accountability, respect, excellence, and service. You should have stated values. And in the very first conversation with prospective employees, you should talk about them. This is critical, and here is why. Our values is how we choose. It's how we choose who we marry. It's how we choose who we hang out with. It's how we choose who we work with. So we're in the age of choice. And if values are how people choose, you have to be upfront with those so that specifically people can either choose to join your team or not based on their alignment with your values. And that should be part of your initial interview. It's something that we talk about a lot, and it's part of our process. And if people aren't excited about our values, they don't matter, then they don't need to join us because we'll get undertime out of them. Measured goals. If you're going to be a great leader and you're going to speak the future into existence as we talked, you need to translate those to what a clear future looks like in numbers. And everybody needs to have a number, and everybody needs to know their numbers. So measured goals are part of a great culture because it provides clarity and it provides purpose, meaning, and direction. Okay? As leaders, we have to provide purpose, meaning, and direction. And measured goals keep pointing us and focused on the right direction. Rituals and routines. This is an interesting one. Great cultures evolve their unique rituals and routines and things that are just unique to them, which makes them special. It also goes back to creating an interesting cadence for your team, having great rituals and interesting routines. Now you already have some. I guarantee you have some in your business. They happen. Now here's the question: are they good ones? Are they bad ones? Are they on purpose with what you're trying to accomplish? Do they give you discretionary effort? Are they a distraction? And then how do you support or enable the good ones, and how do you discontinue the bad ones? So we have a ritual called the Daily Top 3, which we've done for 15 years at least. And the very first thing in the morning, and there's a race to who gets up early, we share with the entire organization our top 3 most important thoughts, priorities, or outcomes for the day to everybody. And this is a ritual that helps us get centered. It helps us understand what each person is trying to do. And it's unique to us, and it makes us who we are. And going along with that is unique language. So great cultures develop unique language. We twiggle appointments. We have our own acronyms. We have phrases that describe when certain things happen in our business, and they remind us how to deal with them. So what unique language do you have in your business? And candid feedback. Candor is critical, and feedback is the breakfast of champions. You have to eat it every day, and you have to be okay with it. And you have to have a culture that is candid. Do people feel comfortable telling people that they did something wrong, and do you have that trust in your team where feedback is expected, and it's expected to be candid, and it's expected to be taken and discussed. So we all need it every day. And if it's the breakfast of champions, man, we should eat on it every day. So, if it needs to be, and it's critical to the health of your team and building a great culture for your business. So, all right, we're coming down the home stretch now, and we're going to do a fast 5 culture concepts to build upon. And again, these are models of thought. These are things that you can remember. These are things that you can hearken back to. And I have a couple of these models just printed up and kind of taped on almost on the side of my desk where only I can see them, because sometimes when some of these conditions aren't met, that's when people get unhappy, and I have to remind myself. So we already talked about discretionary effort. It's a concept so nice. I'm saying it twice. There's a minimum, and then there's a best ever. If everybody in your organization gave you the minimum effort to keep their job, you're not up to something. You're not going anywhere. So doing more than is expected by their own will and their own choice is part of your job and your leader's job to get that from people and to create a culture where millennials, digital natives, and our workforce of tomorrow is going to want to give you that, because they will give it to you, but the ask is different. The ask is different than it used to be. It's not just 50 cents more an hour or whatever it is. I'm not sure it was ever that. So doing more than is expected, but it's by their own will and their own choice. And great companies are built on discretionary effort. Zappos Happy. Tony Hsieh, founder of Zappos, wrote a great book called Delivering Happiness. And there's 4 things, and I highly recommend getting the book. And I'm going to highlight 4 things. And it's the happiness definition or something in there. But it's number 1 is perceived progress. People have to perceive that they're making progress. 2 is perceived control. It's a 4-piece model for Zappos Happy. Perceived progress, perceived control, connectedness, by and between with people that we're equally yoked with, people that we know, like, and trust. And then there has to be a pursuit of a vision or a worthy ideal. So when we all want to know, we want to look back and say, you know what, I'm better off this year than I was last year. I got a promotion, I'm making more money, I have additional responsibility, I'm making progress. If you're not making progress and you're going backwards, you're typically not happy. Number 2, I have autonomy. I have control over what's happening to me. If I do these things happen. Or I'm getting more responsibility. So we want to perceive that we're in control of what happens to us, and we have a say in it. Connectedness, we like to show up and we like to be yoked with people that we believe have similar values, similar motivations, good or bad, okay? But we want to be connected with people like us, and that's important. We want to be accepted. We want to belong. And then vision, right? If you can't make progress about something that somebody hasn't spoken into existence, so you have to have a clear vision. You have to say it over and over again. You have to refine it. It has to be something that can be on everybody's lips, because then you can make progress against it, and you can give people autonomy in pursuing it. And if everybody's happy, then you're together. So Zappos Happy. This is interesting. Number 3, cultures and brands unite. It used to be, before Glassdoor and before all these apps and before all this mobile technology, is that our culture was something that was internally facing. We would look, it was kind of what happened behind closed doors. You had to ask somebody that worked there to figure out what it was, and you could never really get a finger on it, but it was kind of the uniqueness of a workplace, the stories and the memories and their way of dealing with things. And then the brand was what the company's marketing department said we were to the outside world. This is what we said to our customers. And they didn't have to be the same. Well, now because of all the transparency and all the tools, culture and brand have merged. And a culture, a great culture, can be your biggest asset to your marketing department in selling whatever it is you sell to the customers and to the world, and also attracting people to work for your business. So you have to make your culture an asset, because good culture, bad culture, happy culture, sad culture, it is going to be something that is out there. It's not just behind closed doors. So why not make it an asset and make it part of your brand? The gallery owner's dilemma. This is an interesting little story, and it goes like this. So you go to a town and you open up an art gallery, and you take 20 paintings and you put them up on the wall, and on the weekend you open up the shop, and patrons come in and they purchase 10 of the paintings. So you go into the stock room and you pull out 10 more paintings and you fill them up on the wall, and it happens so on and so forth, and every weekend people come in and buy paintings, and at the end of the season or the summer or whatever it is, what do you have left on the wall? Well, you're left with all of the paintings that nobody wants. And if you don't create progress in your organization, and you don't create forward momentum, and if you don't create a culture that honors that and that values those things, and you don't create a culture that is based upon a set of values that everybody buys into, you are going to be left with all of the employees that nobody will hire away from you. That is the gallery owner's dilemma. So create, and this leads right into point number 5, and it's my final point, is streams versus ponds. We want to create, it used to be where we would want to put people and tie them to a cube, and we'd want to create this pond of a pool, a labor pool. We'd even call it a labor pool, where it was stagnant and there wasn't movement. And we hired them there, and that's what they did. And then if they didn't like it, they left. Well, we have to find a way to create streams, which means that when that leaf hits the stream, it is immediately moving. And if the stream is not moving for an employee, maybe we need to stand behind them and roll that scenery thing that they used to use in the old movies to make them perceive that they're making progress. Because we constantly want to be investing in our employees, whether it's through training or whether it's through inclusion or whether it's through other things that are going to make them feel like and actually move forward in the organization. It's a requirement for the workforce of tomorrow. So we want to create streams in our business instead of ponds. And if we do that, we're going to constantly be finding people coming to us that are going to be able to jump in at the head of the stream and start moving forward. So that's it. Those are the Fast 5 culture concepts. Those are models of thought that I have found to be very helpful for me. And awesome. So thank you again. My name Jeff Dudan. I've enjoyed the webinar today, and now we're going to open it up for questions, and I'm going to put my contact information up on the screen. So if you'd like to reach out to me, again, there's my LinkedIn information. I like getting LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I've even provided my email address. If anybody's interested in reaching out to me for any reason whatsoever, I'll be happy to help you. So thank you very much, and I'll wait for your questions.